Okay, so here's where we're at. We're on this 528 M52tu. If you saw the part one of this video, I showed how to take it apart. So we have, at this point in time, we have the crank pin, which is located right there in the little hole. And then we have the cam blocks on back here, like I just showed you. You got to take out the stud there, the stud there, and the stud there. Then you lock those, and then you lock them with the dots on top. They have to be up. See the dots on the little square? The dots always got to be up. Okay, so once you're to that point, what you're going to want to do is come down here, and we left this exhaust cam primary sprocket on. It doesn't have any bolts in it. It's just loose, you know. There is a arrow that is, let's see if it'll focus, right there. That arrow has to be lined up with the side of the head. Now, that is very super freaking easy to get that off just a little bit. And what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the studs in here. And then we're going to, once we know we're close, and then we're going to go through and put the chain tensioner, main chain tensioner jig in. Okay, so now we got the studs installed. We went and torqued those down to 20 foot-pounds. I had extension on there, so probably 15 is a little more like it. I have to look up the specs. I always set them at 20 to my little torque wrench. If you have any kind of adapter or extension, you know, it's going to end up about 15 if you set it a little higher. So at this point in time, let's go ahead and get the timing kit over here and start installing this timing. All right, guys, hope you can hear me. The wind's blowing awful hard. Next, what we're going to do here, we've already done it. We never did take it apart. We're going to install this black chain guide. There is, I believe on this one, 2 or 3 bolts, 2 bolts, one right there, and that holds that down. Do that next. Next thing we're going to do is get the tensioner itself. We're going to go and put the pin in and lock the tensioner down from the timing kit. And we're going to go ahead and reinstall this guy up here. Now, what you're going to want to do, get the bolts for it here. You're going to want to just finger tighten everything in like that. And there's different lengths, bolts. It's pretty self-explanatory. You pretty much can't mess it up. Well, can mess it up, but don't mess it up. And then our long one goes in from down here. I like to go ahead and tighten this one down first. We're going to torque these all at 10 foot-pounds. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is put the exhaust cam. This, I don't know, I guess is a sprocket in a way. It looks like this. And this thing has 2 different sides to it. It has a smaller side, and this is where a lot of people mess up. All this stuff in this exhaust camshaft sprocket, between lining the main chain arrow up, that's so easy to get off. A lot of shops they struggle with this a lot, and then the car comes out, it doesn't run right, and it has a check engine light on. Or it does run right, and the check engine light's permanently on. So we're going to install this with the big flange. Get it focused. I don't know why this. There we go. There we go. The big flange out, the fatter side out, and on the top it has a notch. We're going to drop this on here like this, and we're going to align that notch up. Let's see if I get to stay on there. So that gear has a notch in it. Starting with the notch in the sprocket to line up with this gear, and it is, and it's difficult to stay on there. Let's just leave it just like that. How about that? It'll stay there for a second. Let's go ahead and get our cone, and we're just going to start our cone, and you can see the notch in the cone is right there. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can't start the cone. Kind of hard to do this one-handed. There we go. And we're just going to leave it like that so the splines are barely sticking out. All right, so go and leave it like that. Almost forgot, we got to put the chain tensioner in, the main chain tensioner in. It's not that big of a deal yet, but before you actually try to set anything, you need to do it. So we'll go ahead and use this guy. This is from the kit. We're going to go and install them in the main tensioner hole on the side of the head like that. And we're basically going to torque this to 1 foot-pound. Basically 1 foot-pound is roughly snug with your fingers. It's not using the ratchet. Right. And once you're snug to 1 foot-pound, you can see it. It's right there. And that's about as tight as I get with my fingers. You're going to want to make sure that your notch on the exhaust cam sprocket is still lined up with the head. Right there. And this one, it's slightly below it. That's fine. Like I said, guys, I don't mean to be a Nancy, keep harping on it, but that right there is where 90% of the shops fail. Even the BMW dealers fail at that, if you could even find one to do this job. The trick of this car, or this engine, there's hardly any shops want to do this job anymore. If they do, they want to switch the motor. They don't want to do this. They're scared to do that. They're afraid it's going to have problems. They have to keep taking it back apart. They won't know what to do, and so forth. This is not a difficult job if you follow these instructions step by step. Alright, hope you guys can hear me. The wind is getting crazy. This is another fatal mistake a lot of people make. They order their kit. There's two different jigs for the Vanos. You have the one that bolts on the front that sets the cone depth. You must have that. There is no guessing. There is no measuring. There is no nothing. You have to have that. You have to have this guy. This is usually plastic, and usually it slides like that. So here we have the intake cam sprocket. Okay. Here we have the exhaust camshaft sprocket for the secondary chain. Now what we're going to do here, we need to make sure that these are lined up correctly. And there is a notch right there that has to match up to the cone, to the notch in the cone, the notch in the gear, which is right there. Okay. So what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to stack the intake cog or gear. There's two different possibilities. There's a skinny side and there's a fat side. You want the fat side up. There's different jigs too, different ways to do it. This particular jig, see if I could one-hand it here. This particular jig has two notches. Alright, so you want your notch up. You want to go ahead and slip the chain on. And you're going to want to slide this back over here. This thing barely fits on there, so it's kind of funky, but it'll work. Do that. You're going to want to slide that where it's tight. It's going to look something like this. This isn't seated, but that's fine. Now on the exhaust cam, there's no wrong way to put this. This notch, and this notch are all the same. It doesn't matter. And I don't think it matters either if you flip it around, the gear itself. There's no front and back to it. So here's another here's another good one I see quite a bit. And when you pick this thing up off of there, a lot of guys will flip it around and it won't line up and it'll be a big situation. Okay. So when we pick it up off of there, I can't do it with one hand. Let me set you in the tripod. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to pick it up off of here like this without jumping any teeth or slipping anything. This thing needs to be machined a little bit. It's a little bit shitty. We're going to pick it up on here. We're going to put it on here like this. And while we're doing that, we're going to make sure that our notch on the top is lined up. And this might take you a couple tries to get this right. And you got to try to fish it in the chain guide and everything else. Something like that. Okay. Actually, when I picked it up, it slipped the tooth off the jig. And it's so easy to do that. So now we're at the point to where we can push it in and out. You know, if it's just a hair off, it's not going to work. And like I said, we have our big side in and our shallow side facing out. So now at this point in time, both our cones are sitting in there, not installed yet. And we're going to go ahead and stack the rest of the spring plates and washers. And one more thing, guys. You know, I keep clipping back in here. I'm sorry about that, but I want to make sure you have every detail. If you don't have every detail and you try to do this, things are going to go terribly wrong for you. Just so we're clear here, we'll pull this out as it's totally out. your studs on the exhaust camshaft should be somewhat centered on these gaps, and that way you know you're right, and it should be pretty easy to slip it in there. If you're having resistance or having problems, it's probably not correct. Okay, so at this point in time, all we've done here is took the 3 little Torx bolts and we just fingered them in until they're snug, backed them out a little bit, and we're going to leave them right there. You might have to push this cone in or out a little bit to line the inner washer up for the bolt holes to line up. Okay, so next we're going to put on this spacer. It's basically, they call it a washer, it's basically a spacer. It has no orientation front or back. We're going to go ahead and put it over like that over the studs. Then we also have the spring plate, which still has some oil on it. If not, you have to put a little bit on this. And it has a big F on it for the forward. Now, there's a little bit of a trick to this so you don't break shit. Now, this spring plate, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's concave as usual. Let's take a little better look at it. Yeah, I guess it is. This plate, pay very close attention to every part. If you do that, you're never going to have a problem. And after the spring plate is on, we're going to go ahead and put the camshaft sensor, exhaust sensor. It's like a little cogwheel, and it has an arrow right there, just like the main chain sprocket or pulley head. And we're going to go ahead and make this arrow line up with the side of the head. There's only 3 different possibilities of ways it could go. And we're going to go ahead and make sure that sits on there right. And there is a little bit of a trick to this. You can mess it up. You want to make sure it's on there right and it's not preloading the spring. Just like that. And we're going to take our 3 of our little nuts here, and we're just going to finger tighten these on here for right now. And they should go on easily. If they're wanting to bind up and this washer is sitting on crooked, it is not on the studs correctly. That is a very common situation, and that will make your studs strip out like this one had, which could have something to do with it. And that should stay on there like that. Okay, moving on to the intake camshaft washer. This does not have a separate spring plate and washer. It's all one piece. So this does say front on it. We're going to go ahead and drop it on here. There's no orientation to it. And we're going to finger 3 little 10mm nuts on there. And by not tightening them up, just finger them on there so they're like that. At this point in time, these 3 nuts should not be tight. These 3 nuts should not be tight. These 3 Torx bolts should not be tight either. So, at this point in time, we do one more thing before we can put the Vanos jig on it, which is the final step. He has gasket sealer on this front surface. Let's go ahead and try to clean that up. I don't know if it really makes that much difference. But we need to have the Vanos jig sitting on there pretty flat. It says to use the gasket with it. We might just take our fingers and pick off the silicone he has on here and just get it where it sets on flat. Okay, so at last we're to the Vanos jig. Try to make sure all that little piece of silicone's off of there. The Vanos jig looks like this, and he goes on here, slips over these studs like this. And I see a problem. He's got a bent stud right here. I noticed he had it kind of notched out on the Vanos, so let's go ahead and try to adjust that back a little bit for him and get it where a Vanos jig is going to slide on it. Okay, so we got the Vanos jig properly installed, and everybody says you have to put all the nuts on it. That's not true. You just need 3. Oops, sorry, I kicked the camera for you guys. You need 3. You need usually do the big one here on the end of 13 and just do a couple 10s. It's not going anywhere. So now all we got to do is go back in here and we got to close the gaps on those cones. We got to make sure the cone is touching. I don't know if it's going to focus. That aluminum's so damn bright. And so we're just going to probably take our fingers and see, you can't have a gap in it. You got to have it all the way against it. And the same way with the exhaust one, which it is all the way against it. It's really good. And now at this point in time, we're ready to torque all this stuff down. Okay. Let's go ahead, and we don't want to torque any of these yet. We're just going to snug them all up. But before we do, there's one more thing we have to remember. We got to take out our pin and release our top secondary chain. When we do that, the timing's set. At this point in time, we'll go back and look at the cups again and make sure they're touching. They are touching. And we're just basically going to go ahead and snug everything up. So starting with the torque spits, let's go ahead and snug those up first. Don't get crazy with it. Just do a good snug on them. Alright. And then next thing is going to be our 10 millimeters. Same way with those. And pay very particular attention to this exhaust one. Make sure that's tightened down good. Those studs have little like flanges on them. You got to make sure all those washers go over the studs good. You should never have to force anything. If you have to force anything, you're doing something wrong. Alright, I got one more. And then we're going to go back and get our torque wrench. And we're going to go ahead and torque our little, let me see here. Okay, so we got our let me see what it is here. Our E8 is the socket you use for those, for the Torx bolts. These are actually E-socket. We're going to set the torque wrench a little higher. We have a little bit of extension. We have to use it to clear the Vanos jig. We're going to go ahead and set it at 17. They're supposed to be set at 15. That should end up around 15. So let's just go ahead and give her a whirl and see what's going on here. Alright, let's go hit them again. Let's make sure. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and take this guy off. Let's get our 10 millimeter put back on here. Might have to use the extension with that too. Yeah, that should be alright. Okay, so these 10 millimeters, they're only called for 7.5 foot-pounds. If you could not have to use the extension, I usually set them at 8. If you use the extension, go ahead and set it at 10. The extension takes some out of it. So let's go ahead and do that. That's 8 right there. Now be cautious using a torque wrench with this lighted torque. If you have one that you have to feel it click like mine, it's easy to miss the click. You know, those are already at it. Let's go ahead and put that at. That just feels so little, so light. Just go ahead and set them at 10. All right. And with that long of a handle, that's about a foot long handle, maybe 13, 14 inches. It doesn't feel like anything. If you go back on it with a 1/4 inch drive ratchet, you can tell they're about right. All right, so this time you're done with the timing procedure. You go ahead and pull the blocks off, pull the jig off. You could pull the pin out of the crank, but we also need to put the Vanos back on. Now, we don't have to have none of the timing tools on as long as you put the Vanos on before you turn the engine over or do anything to it. So we'll probably go ahead and just, in this case, pull the jig off, and we'll go back on with the Vanos, and we'll have to torque those bolts that go in these holes on the Vanos, those little Torx bolts, and make sure all that's fit in there right. Okay, so we're back here the next day. We have the Vanos installed. Now all we had to do is go and clean the gasket surface. I put sealer on this again since he had a sealer on it. Didn't want to get out and him have a leak. So we have that done. We went in and put the plugs in, and then before then we put the little bolts that go in the camshafts, and those are torqued to 15 foot-pounds. We put the little plastic cups in, and then we just torque these to 15 also. So that's all done. We found him a new set of washers for the banjo bolt. Remember, it's missing one, and all that's done. I think at this point we're ready to go and pull the timing kit off. We got to pull the blocks off, pull the pin out of the crank. We got to pull our tensioner out, and we go ahead and reinstall the other actual tensioner, not the jig. And I think we're pretty much ready to put the valve cover back on and go ahead and plug all the solenoids and the cam sensors back up. We'll probably go ahead and start this thing before we even put the shroud or fan back on. We'll get the coolant tank off the pulley and start it up and just see what it sounds like before we go put anything else back together. That way we know. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so here we are. The Vanos is back on. Went ahead and cleaned up the gasket area. I need to clean up a couple little spots of it using a piece of red Brillo and a razor blade, and basically ran the valve cover to the parts washer. We're going to go ahead and reinstall it. I'll probably go ahead and check all these bolts on these camshafts before I put the cover back on. We reinstalled the 3 studs back here. This one, and this one that we had out due to the timing kit block. So we'll go ahead and do this and we'll come back. Okay, so here we are. The camera went dead on the time lapse doing the valve cover. Went ahead and put it back on, and you torque these down. I usually do them at 10 foot-pounds. I'll go down the middle lightly, then tighten the outer ones in 2 sequences, and the last one they all end up at 10 pounds. So I think we're just going to leave the fan shroud off right now. The fan off. I'll go ahead and pick this bottle up out of the engine bay here and kind of get it off